I'm Rachel Yucatel, and you're listening to Misunderstood. If you are a dog lover, an animal lover, or a motorcycle lover, I'm assuming that you know Mariah Harmony from Pit Bulls and Parolees on Animal Planet. This show and this family really stood out to me because pit bulls are the most misunderstood dog, and they hire parolees. Clearly, it's very hard for these guys to get a job after they leave prison. And Mariah's mother and her family has been kind enough to open their business to parolees when they get out of prison and offer them a chance to prove themselves, to have purpose. And I was so inspired by the message that they give off to us every week in these episodes when they show the trials and tribulations of rescuing animals, providing rehabilitation for these animals, getting them adopted to the right home, and also the journey that these ex-parolees go on in working at the company. Mariah Harmony, our next guest, she's a woman of many talents and passions. She's a reality star. She's a fashion enthusiast, a tattoo lover, and a pit bull rescuer, and a motorcycle lover. She's obviously best known for her appearance on the Animal Planet series Pit Bulls and Parolees that I just mentioned, where she works alongside her mother, Tia Torres, at Villalobos Rescue Center, the nation's largest pit bull rescue organization. She has several tattoos on her body, which you will notice in my interview, which tell the stories of her life and her beliefs. She's a strong advocate for animal rights and welfare and a role model for many young women who aspire to follow their dreams and passions. She has a new show that just came out called Moto Maidens. It's sponsored by Harley-Davidson and set on the scenic highways of Montana. It's an all-female production crew and it's an all-female cast. You can catch it now on the Rabid reality streaming platform. It's a network that was also started by Mariah and her mom, Tia Torres. I'm very inspired by Mariah and what she's doing, and I hope you will be too. So sit back and relax and listen to this episode with Mariah Harmony. So I just wanted to let you know that when I started this podcast, I had like a bucket list of people that I was really hoping I could get on the show. And you and your mother were on the top of my list because it almost brings me to tears when I watch that intro of your show about giving second chances to the most misunderstood dog breed and then also helping people so that are so misunderstood and need a second chance. Cause you like epitomize what my show is about. It's about, you know, the power of second chances and how powerful that can be to a life that feels like they don't have any other options. No one will listen to them. No one will give them a second chance. And I just love that about you guys. So I just wanted to say that ahead of time.
You gave me goosebumps.
So it's such an honor to have you on my show because,
Thank you so
because
much.
of that
I'm
reason.
happy to be here.
Good. Okay. So your life has really become about rescuing and rehabilitating animals and people who deserve a second chance. Have you always been about the underdog?
I don't ever recall a time in my life where that wasn't kind of who my family embodied. Way before the show happened, we were still doing pit bull rescue I was literally born into this world. We started with wolves and wolf hybrids. And
oh, wow.
My mom did training with that. Villalobos means village of the wolf. So we started with them. And then in the 90s, at some point turned into the pit bulls. And that opened, my mom realized what was going on. Obviously, I was so young that I didn't really know. I just knew I had these big cuddle bears with me all the time, you know, like it wasn't anything in my head. It's being raised into that. You don't understand at such a young age, especially when you're a little girl walking a pit bull down the street with your mom or going to these events and people are pulling their kids away. You're so confused at such a young age why that's happening because you know that this dog sleeps next to you every night. Mm. And obviously things are changing and progressing now compared to how they were in the 90s, but that doesn't mean that there still isn't a stigma, especially that comes with these people that are on parole. These humans is what we forget, humans that sometimes make mistakes or that are charged wrongfully, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's always kind of been who we were. And I think whether it's the way that I look and then how I act and then I did beauty pageants, like it is a misunderstood thing. There's so many different facets to it.
Yeah.
And it's always been what my family embodied, I guess, without meaning to do it. That's who we were.
Okay. So let's talk about what you brought up because you talked about being in beauty pageants and stuff. I want to hear a little bit about your childhood because so many people know you from the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, where are you guys from? I know you have a bunch of siblings, right? Or
Yes. So
Okay.
I have a really big family, but not all of it. My 11th nephew was just born.
Wow.
We got a lot, but not everyone is fully related, but that doesn't matter to our family. We're all family.
Right.
I grew up feral and in the best way possible. I lived on a 2 mile dirt road in this valley in California in the high desert. It's called Agua Dulce. It's a beautiful little like horse town. And I always say my daddy's a cowboy and my mom's a swamp rat. So I had this like, I grew up riding horses, riding dirt bikes, working on cars, but then learning all of this, the other side with my mom and getting to literally open my back door and just take my dogs and run up the mountain. I didn't have to wear shoes. I didn't brush my hair. I'll tell you that much. But I did beauty pageants and I did ballet and I had this really, really full life at a really young age. But also the things that I had to experience and see made me very different from most children my age because I had to see so much death and how the things that humans did. And by that, I mean all the abuse cases that we got in with pit bulls because it was so severe back then. And it still is, but before we were only pit bulls. So I think that it always made me a little bit different from most children my age. And so I was around a lot of people older than me. And I looked at the world a lot differently. I think it made me a lot kinder and a lot softer and a lot more hardened at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It totally does. So, growing up, you guys were always involved in rescuing animals then? Like, when did that actually start and how did it start?
The wolves, I don't even know how it started because I was just born at that point.
Wow. Okay.
My mom and my dad were still together. They ended up moving to the property that we started the rescue at, and it started with wolves. My mom actually did training with them, and she worked on the first live action Jungle Book. She lived in Sri Lanka, worked with tigers, with we had tigers, we had bears in our backyard.
Wow.
My sister and I would rock, paper, scissors on who had to feed the male tiger because he was such a jerk, except to my mom. We had 3 bears, 3 tigers, a black leopard, a one-eyed bobcat. At one point, I had a baby deer living in my room with my dog and I that was a preemie that I was raising. I raised 3 raccoons. Like when I say feral, I mean feral.
Yeah.
But they were retired movie animals and we were giving them sanctuary all legally because it was not like the Tiger King thing. It was all legal and we were giving these animals sanctuary after they retired from movie work. The pit bulls started in the 90s on accident. I still remember this and I don't know how because I was so young, but I know somehow we ended up at a shelter in I think East LA. And it was my older sister, Tanya, my mom and I. All I remember, Tatanka was our first pit bull. That's buffalo. That's what it means. She had her ears completely taken off. Someone held fishing wire around her ears so they fell off. And she was a part of a court case. So my mom got on the waiting list for her. I don't know what. All I remember from that day was my sister and I were sitting on a bench. And my mom said that she sees a pit bull running at us like high speed. And she's just like, oh, crap. And I remember Tatanka knocking us backwards off the bench and licking us to death. And my mom was like, I want that dog. And that was our first pit bull. But we had to wait weeks for her for the case to be over, all that stuff. And Tatanka is the one that started the pit bull side of Villalobos Rescue Center, and the Villalobos that everybody knows now was because of that dog and that court case.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys were in California and at some point you moved everything to New Orleans, right? And this is before the show?
Louisiana. No, this was during the show. The show started, I think, 2 years before we moved. And friggin' thank baby Jesus we did because Louisiana suits us a lot more.
Oh, good.
But no, we have 2 locations, Louisiana and out in Assumption Parish in Louisiana. And then we have our wolf sanctuary in Texas.
Got it. Okay.
So we're everywhere. That's
amazing. So tell me about how the show came to be presented to you.
We didn't want to do it. I'll tell you that much. We did not want to be on TV at all. We just wanted to do what we wanted to do. My mom used to give free training classes in LA for pit bulls and bully breeds because at that point in time, places like Petco, all that stuff wouldn't allow pit bulls in their training classes.
Mm.
My mom would do them for free. She had a student in there with his pit bull that I believe, I don't know if he was a TV producer or what he was. He kept saying that he wanted to film a pilot of us. And my mom was like, no, get out of my face. And he kept coming up to the rescue and like filming my family, and he put something together. And then before I knew it, we were going to meetings with, it's right when the recession hit really hard.
Mm.
And at that point, my sister and I were going to the church down the street to go get food for our family and picking change out of it. All of our money went to feeding the dogs.
Wow.
And we were hurting. And my mom, trust me, those dogs never went one day without eating. We may have sometimes.
Yeah.
No, my mom always fed all of us. We were always taken care of. I don't know how that woman did it,
Mm-hmm.
but she did. And yeah, the show started from there. And I'm really thankful, because if it wasn't for Animal Planet and us going with them, then hundreds of dogs wouldn't have got the homes that they have. And it was because of that the rescue was able to continue after all these years.
And what was the reaction? I mean, was it always called Pit Bulls and Parolees?
Yeah, my mom wanted it to be Life of the Underdogs, which is what we have now.
Yeah.
But, you know, things change, and it's what happens in TV land, and you make compromises, and everything turned out wonderful.
Right. So talk to me about the Parolees for a second. Were you guys already employing these people before the show?
Yeah. My mom's now ex-husband, AJ, I guess my mom's always had a hand in the prison world, kind of, for a long time, not always, but she's dated men in prison. That's all I'll say. My mom,
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, we won't get into that. My mom talks about it openly. That's why I'm okay saying it. My mom has a podcast with her ex-husband, Tony, who's in prison still. And they have a podcast with him in prison.
How cool.
It's called 25 to Wife. But AJ was saying, like, when he got out, how hard it is for men to get jobs when they're on parole. And we realized what the dogs, we already know how healing they are for us. So now imagine someone that understands them, that's been in prison, that understands being put in this confined space and what you actually need to heal, not just being thrown in a cage. That doesn't heal you.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, when it came to the parolees, we didn't have to do anything except stick the dogs with them. We taught them how to do training stuff, but them getting to see dogs that come in that are abused, and then them being a part of that healing process for them, and then getting to continue to take that dog into their forever home, that does all the healing that we could ever ask for in someone.
Right.
And it heals a lot of trauma that these men have had.
Yeah. And gives them purpose. I mean, that comes through on the show watching. I mean, you can see that becomes a reason for them to get up in the morning, for them to have something to do, to look forward to. And you've seen a lot of those rescues that they're helping you girls make, or they're doing on their own. And they're really, they're saving a life. And I'm sure that gives them so much purpose. And there's two guys in particular, that I think the show really features. Do they still work with you? Is it Tony and
TC and Earl?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are still with us.
I love them.
Thankfully, those are people always laugh when I'm like, no, those are my big brothers. And they're like, what? And I'm like, what? Because I'm white, get out of here. And that's what they say, the same thing. That's my little sister. They are family. Earl was the first person that we hired in New Orleans. We were his first job ever after being in prison for, I don't even know, like half his life or something. And yeah, they're still with us, and they've helped manage some of the warehouses. They are family, and they're amazing, amazing men. And I do not ever want to know my life without them.
That's so amazing. And I love that. It also, the fact that they know how much trust you guys put in them and that they're responsible for something, I think also is just such an unbelievable gift to give them, because it makes them, I think I've heard Earl maybe say to your mother, like, he's felt like he's let her down a couple of times and does these things because he wants to make her proud, which I think is really amazing
know.
too. I don't know that she likes to hear
I
that.
love them. No, I'm sure whether she admits it, she does.
Yeah. So, and in general, so you guys had 19 seasons. Was it all positive in terms of, obviously for the dogs, it was positive, but was it positive for you guys? Was that difficult? Were there any bad scenarios that happened?
I mean, of course, it's weird. Like, my family we weren't people that wanted to be in the spotlight, and like, we're all different humans. We all need different things to make us happy. And being in the spotlight was not one of the things that my family and I wanted, but such beautiful opportunities have come out of it. Yeah. And I think that it's how you go about things in your life, that you can utilize things and use it for something good. Just like now I'm in Milwaukee right now I get to work alongside with Harley Davidson now, because the other half of my life was riding motorcycles. We started our own production company now it's called Early Release Media. So the hope is to teach men coming out of prison how to work in TV aspects of things, because that's a full career for them.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So Tony, TC, and Earl actually have their own TV series right now, and it was up for a few nominations for something. It's called Big Easy Boys. And so it's on our family's website. And all the money still goes back to the rescue. Like, that's the whole thing. They get paid, obviously, but the rest of the money helps the dogs. It's called Rabid Reality. And I forget what awards it was just up for, but Tony and Earl get to go explore Louisiana and things that they never got to do and be tourists in their own city and state because they were in prison. Right. And it is the cutest thing I've ever seen. It is so cute watching them. But it's things like that now, because of the TV show, we're able to do and help these guys do stuff. I'm able to explore other parts of my life that aren't just the dogs, because obviously that's my family's heart and soul, but we all have other things that we enjoy doing. Yeah. So I get to get paid to ride motorcycles now. Like, that's I know. Amazing.
So now tell us about that show, because it's just come out this week. Yeah.
Moto Maidens. It came out yesterday, actually. It was our premiere day. So it's me and 4 other women, and we were doing this with or without the TV show. We were just going to go do it. We all live in different states. So we pick one state, we bring our motorcycles, we unload, we put all of our gear on our bikes, so camping gear, all that stuff, and we take off for a week. We have, I told them I would only do it if we had a all-female production crew. We have female editors. So we stay in that state for a week because we actually really want to travel that state and explore it, not just passing through it. Along the way, we get to stop and interview different women, whether it's their businesses, their art, the stories, the things that they've been to, and really, really highlight them. And it has been such an amazing journey. We did Montana first, which is the season that's out right now, also on Rabid Reality and on the Harley Davidson app. And then we did Florida after. So we have 2 seasons done already because we were antsy to go.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was the rest of the maidens get here tomorrow, actually. They get here tomorrow morning. So it'll be this is a whole new adventure for me. Amazing. Aside from the rescue. And part of the money from Moto Maidens goes back to the rescue. So
and what network can they see that on? How do they get that?
It's Rabid Reality. So all the shows that my family and I produce it's rabidreality.com. And that's our family's website. And it's so many, there's a lot. Life with the Underdogs, which is the new version of Pit Bulls and Parolees. Nothing bad happened with Animal Planet. They were wonderful to us, but the different people buying it and taking over all these things. So it was time for us to be in control of our stuff. And we're so thankful for Animal Planet. We're lucky we're with them, but now Life with the Underdogs is what the new Pit Bulls and Parolees is. There's Tony and Earl's show. There's a few other ones that I got to do, and Moto Maidens will be on there as well. That'll air on next Monday, but the Harley Davidson app that they just came out with is the other way that you can watch Moto Maidens. But all of it will be on rabidreality.com.
Okay. Now talk about your tattoos, because you have a lot of them. I assume
I'm running out of space.
I assume they tell a story for you, each one. I mean, I myself have 7 tattoos, and each one for me tells a story. So what do they mean to you? And tell me about some of the ones you have.
I guess this one would be the one that was like one of the most sentimental ones. So when my mom lived in Sri Lanka, I was in like kindergarten, when she was working on the Jungle Book. I don't remember the exact story, but I know growing up, I saw this statue in her bathroom every single day, and it was the head of a cobra and like the body of a woman and a snake. So it was a cobra woman. She told me that she found someone carving it, something along the lines of it was an empowering thing for women. That statue was. And I remember seeing it every day as a little kid. So I think that was the most sentimental one to me. And then I have my dog on my leg. There's so many silly ones on me. Of course, I have silly ones, but
so you do get tattoos of dogs that have meant something to you, or a dog?
Yeah. So I have Sloth that passed away. He was on the show for the deaf one. That one. Oh. But I can't get any more portraits of dogs. I have my whole thigh with LA, my very first pit bull I had for 14 years. It's him with his angel wings. But if I keep sticking portraits everywhere, then my whole body would be covered in just dogs. So I've had too many dogs for that. So I have to think of other ways. Like I have my dog's exact paw print on the back of my thigh. I put it in ink and then they tattooed it. But I find other ways of commemorating them and remembering them instead of just getting portraits all over my body of dogs.
Right. Have there been some dogs that really have stuck out to you, or some stories of dogs that you can share with us?
Of course. I mean, the first ones are always going to be LA, my dog that I had from the time I was 4 till I was 18 years old. And he was from a dog fighting case. That dog, people offered my mom so much money for him. She's like, no, that's my daughter's dog. I did training with him, like movie work with him. And I was the trainer on set at a young age. He was perfect. Been around cats. I had to do a speech in front of the Los Angeles mayor when I was very, very, very young, and like hundreds of people talking about breeding dogs and why they need to be more strict on it. And my mom loves telling the story, but I do remember it. I remember pulling a chair over because I was too little, climbing up on the microphone and dropping the leash and telling LA just to wait right there. And he sat right next to me in front of hundreds of people, and the mayor stayed right next to me. And I remember saying something along the lines of, me not getting to see the beauty of birth every day because I have to see the sadness of death because of overbreeding. And hearing a little girl say that, I think kind of gets to you.
Yeah.
So LA was a big one for me because he was there through such big points of my life, being a child and being a teenager, and those transitional points where you really, really need someone there for you. And he was. My mom's dog Duke that dog was so intense and smart, and just he was on it. And my sister's dog Bluey. It was all those dogs that we had at the beginning. When pit bulls were bred like pit bulls and they acted like pit bulls, whereas now you're seeing so much terrible. I mean, it's always been terrible breeding, but now they're trying to make them into something they're not. And genetically, they're not acting like typical pit bulls are supposed to because of such poor backyard breeding. And their health is really, really bad now. I'm sure you see the ones that have crooked elbows and have breathing problems because they're breeding for the way they look. And the dogs end up dying in a couple of years. So just remembering those dogs at the beginning of Villalobos that made Villalobos that core of what it is now, I think are the ones that stick with me.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I have had dogs my whole life. I am someone who almost likes animals more than I like people. And And so I feel, I had 2 very special dogs for me that got me through a very hard time. My fiance was killed when I was engaged, when I was 26, and I went and got a dog 2 days later. And that dog I named Rudy Giuliani. It happened during 9/11, during the World Trade Center. And this dog I had for almost 20 years. And it was the most I've ever loved a man, kind of, like it was the love of my life. And losing a pet or a dog can sometimes be worse than losing a person, because you can't have that conversation. You can't, and also choosing to put them to sleep is also a very hard thing. And I found that, when like that time does come, but there's a lot of anxiety that goes into it when you have to make this decision. And I've had to put a couple dogs to sleep now. And I've found that I'm so upset and so anxious, but the moment it comes that it's right, there's so much peace to it, because it was done at the right time. And that you could say your goodbye and they needed it then, and they would be much happier. And I've just found that having dogs is so important to me. I swore I would never get a dog. That loss was too much for me. But then within 2 weeks, I mean, I went and got my daughter out of school, made up some excuse. I walked into the principal's office. I'm like, I have to take her right now. And she's like, Mom, what happened? I said, we have to go get a dog. So we went and got a dog. I let her pick the dog, even though it was my dog. I let her pick, think it was hers. And then recently, so we have like a Japanese Spitz, type of dog. And then her name is Mishka. And then we just went to animal control in Manhattan recently. And we were just going to see what dogs needed the most help. And that's why we said we were there. It was my daughter and her friend Olivia. And we walked around, and almost every dog in animal control in Manhattan was a pit bull. And I said to my daughter, we can't take home a pit bull. I don't know anything about them. We don't know what kind of history she's had or they've had. And especially because we only were interested in helping a dog that needed the most help. I wanted a dog that was going to be euthanized or couldn't find a home, or, I was looking for something in particular, but I didn't know what that was. And we saw a bunch of dogs, and I thought, I just had learned about the stigma, that came with pit bulls. And eventually we picked a dog who was about a year old, but they were going to put her to sleep because she had been there for so long and wasn't potty trained, had all these kind of problems, was tied to a post and found with staples in her head. And when we saw her, my daughter was like, that's my dog, Mom, we have to get that dog. And she wouldn't let me leave without getting that dog. And I was just like, okay, so we're going to try this. And her name is Nala.
I was going to say, is that Nala? Who I just heard you talk.
That dog has a better life than most human beings.
My dogs are way too full. It's disgusting.
Yes. So, and she now, I got a house I moved down to Florida since we got her. She has 2 acres of gated yard in the background. She, we do watching how happy she is, like, brings me so much joy that I was going to say, I can't even tell you, but obviously, what that's like to see the joy in a dog who lived in a cage or lived on the streets or whatever happened to that dog in the past. And I always look at her and I say, I don't know what your past was, but I'm so lucky that you found me and I found you, because you're never going to not be protected anymore. And I love that feeling. That's why I've liked what you guys have done so much, because you get to see those stories. You get to see, like, a lot of times you don't know what their past is, but they're so, they look a certain way. They look scary. They look like they could have been trained in the wrong way, but with a lot of love. It's just like a person. Like, they just need someone who believes in them and can help them get through that fear or whatever it is that they're going through, because I found what most dogs need. And that's why they show aggression, is because they possess so much fear. And so it's been an honor for me to have a pit bull. And so it's like changed my life. But, I love it. I love it.
I'm glad you found a good one.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I think the thing that's hard for me to explain to people also, and this is something that, like, people have to learn. A lot of dogs, like you just said, do need us to be patient and just, like, show them love through their trauma and healing. But a lot of it now, unfortunately, is bad breeding and bad genetics. And that's the really sad thing, is it's not always dogs that have been through trauma. There's a lot of dogs that it's literally bad breeding, and it's made them mentally not how a pit bull's supposed to act. Did you know that pit bulls were called nanny dogs, right?
No. Tell me, what does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Way back in the day when pit bulls were actually, like, I forget what year it is. You'll have to look it up. But they were called nanny dogs because people had them because they were so, like, they'd put the dogs and the kids out in the yard, and the dogs would keep them from, like, going in the water. And they were their nannies. They made sure that they didn't get into any trouble and nothing bad happened to them. They protected their children, and they were bred to be family dogs.
Wow. I didn't know.
But now you're saying, they were called nanny dogs. Now you're seeing so many terrible things happening, obviously, because people suck. And whether it's them abusing them and hurting them, and the dogs react out of fear, which most of the cases can be helped with patience and love and just trying to give them what they need. But sometimes it's really poor breeding. And these backyard breeders, responsible breeders, which breeding needs to be, I won't even get into that part. But if someone's going to breed responsibly, then you're breeding two dogs together that have the temperament of the breed that you're trying to breed. Yeah. And by that, I mean, pit bulls are supposed to be really friendly with humans. And that's why they use them for dog fighting, unfortunately, because they're strong and owners can go in and grab them and they won't get bit because pit bulls are so good with humans. And that's why they use them. Right. They're strong dogs, but they're not going to hurt you. And now it's getting to the point where that bad breeding is making them act not like a pit bull. And it's really sad and unfortunate because it is my favorite breed, as we all know.
Mm-hmm. In general, can you talk about why it's so important to get animals from a rescue as opposed to from a breeder?
And the list will go on. Mm-hmm. At this point, especially in the country, so during COVID, everybody decided that they wanted to get dogs and they didn't think about what would happen when they would go back to work. And so all the shelters, it's so heartbreaking. Every shelter in the US and rescue is so over capacity that they're literally giving dogs away for free, which is also irresponsible. And they're having to euthanize so many dogs right now because the shelters are so overburdened. Going to a breeders, if we stopped breeding dogs right now, we'd still have plenty of dogs. Trust me. Going to a breeder most of the time, honestly, do you care about your dog being papered if you're not showing it? No, that's for pissing rights. Like, get out of my face. Sorry. But that is so silly to me. If you're not showing your dogs and it that being important, papers don't matter. To me, overpopulation when it comes to dogs, by you buying a dog rather than rescuing it, in my head, that means that you're contributing to a dog being euthanized, because that is what's happening. Instead of you rescuing a dog or going to a rescue or a shelter, that dog that you could have just rescued and brought into your home and changed your life, you went to a breeder instead, which means that other dog's going to get euthanized and killed. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the scales are not balanced when it comes to rescue and breeding right now. And they probably won't be, but we're dang sure going to try. And the more the laws start happening and things on breeding are more strict. And thankfully, rescue has become so much bigger and is a lot more important to people now than it was 15 years ago. And that's a beautiful thing that Animal Planet gave us that we're able to share with the world, and that it's becoming more important to people. But I think when people actually sit back, and it's always, I don't know what dog I'm getting or whatever it is, I understand that you want to know, but I guarantee you that if you go on or go to different rescues, you know what kind of dog you're getting from us, because we go through all these things. And there are so many rescues and shelters all over the country that do those things and are able to help you with what they're good with, what they're not, because everyone's lives, like, you need a dog that is good with children. You need to know that as a mother, obviously. And there's rescues and shelters all over the country that can help do that. So I think any excuse that anyone wants to come up with to go to a breeder is bullshit, and I can probably combat it. Yeah. All right, I get a little feisty about this stuff.
No, it's okay. So, like, right now at your rescue, how many dogs do you have? How many are coming in on a daily basis? How many get to leave on a daily basis? How does that work?
It changes daily. We have hundreds of dogs, I'll tell you that much. But because we have several locations, one day a few weeks ago, we got 30 dogs in at one location because it was all from one group. The beauty of one of the other programs that we do, there's a few, I don't know if you know anything about the prison dog programs.
No.
So it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So there's prisons all over the country that have, they're like cell dog programs, and it's 2 guys per 1 dog, and they take dogs from rescues, and they have a dog trainer there every day that's teaching these men. They bring the dogs into their tiny little bit of cell that they have. They give up space to put a dog crate in there, and they work with these dogs every single day doing training. Some of these prisons have service dog training programs. I asked them when I got to visit some of the programs, I was like, dude, can y'all train my dogs? They are so good at it. Wow. It is unbelievable. I got to go into some of the cells with these guys in Pennsylvania. And I remember one of them, like, in tears. had been in there for like 20 something years. And he said that when they brought his first dog into him, he hit the floor crying because it made him realize that he was a human again. Yeah. So we get to bring some of our dogs into these prison programs. And then from there, these dogs get to be adopted out into their forever homes. And then the guys will get their next dog that they get to start training. So we're lucky to have transport partners like that, because if it wasn't for them, it would be really hard on us right now, because adoptions have slowed down so much with how the country is and people struggling to even survive for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it changes, but we have hundreds of dogs and it fluctuates a lot. Our transport partners in the prisons we work with are really great, and they have saved our ass.
Yeah. And then do the dogs, I mean, just on like the basics, do you guys have enough staff that you're walking them every day? Are you looking for volunteers? Like, how does that work?
Yes. We thankfully we're always hiring when it's people that are like near us. We do volunteer stuff every Saturday in New Orleans. If you can go on our website, it has the information. It's vrcpitbull.com, Villalobos Rescue Center. And we'll be able to, or my mom is very active on the Villalobos, it's Pause for Life Facebook.
Okay.
She handles that and she's really active on it. But we do volunteer day every Saturday, and the dogs get to go on a walk. The dogs out in the country and the city get to go. We have them crate trained. So while we clean kennels, they get to go in their crates in air conditioning. And then right when we're done cleaning in the morning, they'll come out. They get to go out. Some of the dogs have gone to the beach. Like, we try our hardest to make sure that they're living happy, full lives. But when you get that many dogs in, volunteers obviously are very necessary, because they get that little bit of extra attention so that our employees can focus on making the rest of their lives even better.
Yeah.
But we're hiring at both locations, I believe, right now, New Orleans and Assumption Parish, which is about an hour and a half southwest of New Orleans.
Okay.
And it's very different. That's more country life. It's more what I'm seasoned for, and my sister's more seasoned for the city. Right. But yeah, we always need help and volunteers. And there's things, we had our Amazon wish list when people can't get close, just donating dog food or poop scoops. People have sent just cleaning supplies, you know what I mean, for any rescue. And it doesn't have to just be us. If you want to volunteer places and you want to volunteer with us and can't come to Louisiana, go to your local shelter and volunteer. They need help. I promise you that they need help. So you can still help without having to come all the way to us, because every rescue needs help right now. And that's the whole point of the rescue world, is it's the entire mission. It's not just about Villalobos. Yeah. It should be about caring about dogs in general. Yeah. And I think people forget about that and get very like tunnel vision.
Are you guys an open place? Can people come in and see dogs every day, or they have to actually call?
No, you need to, if you want to adopt, you can fill out. I always tell people this. We are not having you fill out an application because we're trying to scrutinize you. I'd have my dad fill out an application if I wanted to. It's so that we know what your life is like and what kind of dog you would want. And we pick out a bunch of dogs for you, to meet and stuff like that. It's just so we can figure out what your life is like. You can fill out an application on our website as well, and then you make an appointment and we'll show you dogs. We used to be open for tours, but unfortunately right now we're not able to, just because we moved to a new warehouse and there's so much going on, and we're short staffed half the time. Like, it's a part of life right now, unfortunately, and we don't have the time to walk people around. And it's a lot on the dogs. You know what I mean? We would have to separate dogs that are good with people and that aren't dealing with their healing process right now. Yeah. And then, separating them. But we still, like I said, volunteers every single week, and they get to meet a bunch of the dogs and be a part of it and be there.
So, has the show helped you kind of be in the incoming phone call business? Are you getting so many requests for dogs all the time, or has it really slowed down?
Adoptions have slowed down tremendously. And I really think that it's because of how overburdened people are right now, and that people are just trying to survive, and people don't even have the money to take care of themselves right now. And going back to work after, the pandemic, all of these things, there's so many different reasons for it. And adoptions everywhere have slowed down, and it's actually heartbreaking. And for a while there, everyone was pretty panicked on what the heck we were going to do. Yeah. So, unfortunately, adoptions have slowed down a lot compared to how they were.
You have a video podcast, My Owner's a Celebrity, right? How long have you been doing
Yes. that just started. And that was actually, I don't even know whose idea that was. I was kind of told I was doing it. And I go where I'm told with my family. I'm just like, okay, I'm the one without children, the only one. So I get to just go. But yeah, that one just started. We just premiered it and it's on Rabid Reality on our family's website.
Who are some of the people that you've had on?
There's been so many people that I know. Actually, it's someone that you're interviewing or that you just interviewed.
Melissa Rivers.
Yeah, she was one of them. She was one of them. But there's been everyone that I interviewed. It's nice watching because when they told me I had to do celebrity stuff, I was like, no, not to be mean, but I was like, I'm not doing it. And then they were like, well, you're interviewing them about their dogs. And I was like, okay, now I'm in. And it's for a reason. It's not because any of the people that I would have interviewed, I wasn't excited to. I was thrilled. But I think that people get tired about talking about themselves. I mean, I guess I do. So them getting to talk about their rescue dogs was such a beautiful thing to see. Yeah. And not only that, if we're able to use our voices as someone in the public eye to talk about rescue, then let's friggin' do it. And that's what every single celebrity that I got to interview on the video podcast was about. And they're like, no, like we need to talk about this. So it was a really beautiful thing to see, and getting to have people that are celebrities and in the public eye so thrilled to talk about rescue and why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. I also interviewed Lee Asher from the Asher House. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And that was one of the best interviews I did. I just love what he does. He has a sanctuary and has, over 50 animals. It's not Pit Bulls per se, but it's and that interview was so great. I mean, do you follow him? Do you know?
I know I've heard about it, but I don't follow him at all.
Yeah. And it's just so great. Similar to what you guys do, you see the rescue missions and you see how he rehabilitates them. And a lot of it is amazing. Sanctuary. They're not going to be adopted back out ever. It's their forever home. How much of your business is a sanctuary? Do you have dogs that will stay there forever and not be adopted out?
Yeah. So we have our wolf dog rescue in Texas, actually, East Texas. That's a whole situation that happened. And then we have dogs with us that unfortunately will never be able to be adopted out. And most of those dogs end up coming into one of our houses to stay. My dog Tater that passed away, there is no way he could have ever been adopted out. That dog was off his friggin' rocker, but that was my soulmate. So most of the time they'll come into one of our homes or one of our employees that is seasoned and is able to handle and equipped to handle a dog that has issues, whether it is fear or aggression. We never want to put anyone in danger. And it's not fair for us to expect to adopt a dog out to somebody that you're like, oh, we might bite someone. No, like we're not, that's not what we do. We'll handle that ourselves because we do this professionally and we know how to handle it and we're equipped for it.
Right. Going back to something you said earlier, you were like, I don't want to interview celebrities. Do you see yourself as a celebrity?
No. When people get all excited and just like, try and take pictures, I always tell them, I pick up dog shit for a living. Like, just, it's fine. I've never thought of myself like that, no matter how much I am in the public eye. And I don't think about it that we had 19 seasons. I know that I get to live my life. And I think what I always tell everyone, and this sounds so silly to some people, but all that I want to do in life is make sure that I leave the world a little bit better of a place than when I came into it. And that's how I want to live my life. That's not everybody. That's what I want to do. And if I'm able to do that more so by being in the public eye, then I'm going to use it.
That's amazing. I think that's great.
Thank you.
I think so many people though have followed you for so long, followed your family, love what you guys do.
Watch me grow up.
They watch you grow up. They're interested in what you're doing. So, I think everyone should definitely tune in and watch this new motorcycle travel show.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And that's what's going on in your life personally right now, right? I mean, that's like that's your baby right now.
This is my baby. This is my first show that I produced along with Candace, who has been with us through Pit Bulls and Parolees. It was really cool getting to see just the power behind these women. We're just like, all right, load up the motorcycles. We have all female crew. Like, let's do it. And then it turning into, I didn't realize that we were going to end up working with Harley. This is just something that we wanted to do. And you know how things flourish and you get to see what's become of it. And then getting to hear women tell me that don't ride motorcycles. It's nothing to do with you riding a motorcycle. Getting to hear women say how much it inspired them at even the age that they were at and being older to go do things that they've wanted to do or that they were scared to do, or just actually being able to live their life. And I think that was the point of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, can you tell us, is there any point where somebody's motorcycle breaks down and it's a total nightmare?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Within the first episode, one of the girls crashed. So,
oh gosh. Okay.
But that's the whole fun of it, is that like, because when we break down, we have our tools with us. We're like, all right, we got to figure this out on the side of the road.
Like, and how did you learn how to put together motorcycles, do all that?
And I figured it out. I love working on cars and motorcycles. And it's kind of how being in a shop and working on a motorcycle was always kind of, and I sewing and I sew a lot of my own clothes. Sewing and working on motorcycles are my two things that like calm me down. And when you work in animal rescue, it's a heavy burden on your soul. So having those little escapes where you can like take a breath for a second. And I think working on motorcycle engines kind of like calmed me down a lot.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of flourished and came from.
Yeah. So tell people again where they can watch the show, where they can find you guys now. Cause I know Animal Planet does have all the reruns on all the time. So it's still like,
but that's not any of the new stuff.
Right.
So, our families, sorry, I'm pulling it.
That's okay.
Our family's website that has everything with Earl show, Moto Maidens will be aired on there next Monday. It's called Rabid, like a rabid dog, rabidreality.com. And it's all of like, we have a podcast called Pit Bulls Parolees and a producer. And it's our executive producer, Billy, my mom, and then different ones. And we literally go through from episode 1 and giving everybody all of the sneaky behind the scenes stuff and like things that were going on, all of that. So, and it's video podcasts. So there's so many different things on Rabid Reality that you get to see a part of Villalobos Rescue Center, behind the scenes stuff, and different parts of our lives that we didn't get to share before, like me with my motorcycles and TC and Earl on their adventures, and my owner is a celebrity. And the beauty of it is that everything goes back to the rescue.
Love that.
Still.
One show I would like to see is a follow-up on where a lot of these dogs, where you put them, but like how their life is going. Oh, it is? Oh, good.
Yes. We have that. We actually have that on there. Why am I having a brain fart right now? It's, oh my goodness, what's it called? I can
look it up.
I don't know why I'm having a brain fart right now, but we literally have. So we catch back up with everybody that adopted dogs so we have sell dogs on there. Like there's so many different ones that my mom has going on here now, but there is a little series that we did catching back up with dogs from like the beginning. Do you remember, oh my gosh, my brain is just, this traveling has been kicking my butt. There's so many dogs though that we adopted out that we got to catch back up with, and I got to see, Creature. That's not having a brain fart. Okay. Did you ever see that adoption?
I don't remember. I would need to hear about the parent too, because I'm always so into who the person is.
Either way, we like just getting to even some of the dogs that had passed away, like we get to catch up with their owners and how great their life was and all the adventures they went on. So that's actually on there.
Oh, good. I'm going to watch it. I'm making my producer to make a note. We're going to watch it tonight.
Okay. Wonderful.
So, all right. I love that stuff. I think you're so fantastic. I just wish the best for you guys. I can't wait to see what you guys do. And I really hope that people take the opportunity to, donate their time, their money, whatever it is, to you guys. And if not to you guys, to any animal shelter rescue near them, because I think it's so important. And make sure that you are going in and rescuing and adopting instead of looking for a breeder because you want that special little puppy that, you think your daughter's going to love. But at the end of the day, it's all this, that becomes, it's all the same. They all need love. So I think it's really important.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Anything that I've forgotten that we should cover or that you want to talk about?
I think we got it all.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you one other question, because you said everyone else in your life had a child. Do you ever want to have a child?
It's always been like left. It's funny because I was the one that everyone thought would have kids first, because I have helped raise so many and because I love kids so much. But it was always one of those things where I didn't feel like I would feel unfulfilled if I didn't, or that I needed to. It was always like, if it happens, it happens. Like, I'm not stressed about it. And I know that unfortunately being a female, our bodies won't let us do that forever.
That's right.
But I don't feel pressured to have one or to not. I'm so lucky that I have 11 nieces and nephews, and I get to take them for a few days. And then I'm like,
and then you can give them back.
I'm going to go get on a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I told everyone, I was like, I'd have to just strap the baby seat to the back of my friggin' motorcycle. So.
Yeah. No, that's right. But it also, it's funny. My daughter, who's 11, sometimes people will say, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" And she'll say, "My mom has 3 because she has me and she has the other 2 dogs." And she'll say, and if she wasn't here, she would say she likes Mishka the most, So the animals are my kids. I know every animal that comes through the door. You love them, I'm sure, like they're your own. So anyways, it's been such an honor, and we look forward to seeing what you guys do in the future, and we wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, honestly. So thank you so much for giving me your time.
Of course. Have a good day.
Okay, you too, honey. Thank you so much for listening to Misunderstood. I'm your host, Rachel Yucatel. Please be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star rating and review. You can support the show by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/misunderstood with Rachel Yucatel. Do you have ideas for the show or want to reach out? Email us at info misunderstoodpodcast@gmail.com. That's spelled MISS understood. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.